Global Broadcasting Networks presents Coach Talk Radio. Create the time, money, and lifestyle you want with tips, tricks, and techniques that get you started today from some of the best internet minds in the business. Now here are your hosts, Internet Brand Strategist Sandra Beck and Marketing Director for Toginet Radio, Scott Frazier.
Hi, and welcome to Coach Talk Radio. I'm Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Director of Marketing for Toginet Radio, Scott Frazier. We're going to roundtable discussion today with Dave Anderson of Anderson Leadership Solutions, and we're going to answer two big questions: why internet radio is good for your business and what you need to do to get there. But before we discuss those topics, I'm going to go over to Scott. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself and talk a little bit about what he does from his end as the host provider for internet radio for businesses. Scott, nice to have you on the show.
Sandra, thank you very much. It's an honor to be a part of this. As you know, being the Director of Marketing for Toginet, what I found over this past couple of years, the opportunity for individuals, entrepreneurs, any kind of industry leaders to have their own radio show is a great way of reaching more people. I've been in the marketing business for 35 years, advertising, and in the past, we only allowed people to have 30 seconds, maybe a minute on air, whether it's radio, TV, newspaper, industrial magazines. So it was a very limited opportunity for anybody that wanted to reach their audience to have that opportunity. With the internet today, with websites, we can put as much information out there that we want to, that needs to be, and then we give voices to anyone that wants to talk to their audience. And as we'll discuss here in a few minutes with Dave, it is a great way to connect with people because through our voice, we can really get to know someone. It's one thing to read a blog and we can get to understand where people are coming from with a blog, but to hear our voice and to hear the interaction and the inclination that we're expressing, that's where the passion comes through. So I'm excited about this and excited that we are reaching more people around the world with some new techniques in marketing, and that's where we're at today.
Well, in this technology, Scott, if I can expound a little bit about what you're talking about, I think there's a trend today that people don't necessarily believe what they read. They don't believe what they see. You know, you can Photoshop stuff. You can take a ghostwriter or God, you can take a college student these days and get them to write your blog. So I think there's a perception in business that things are not always what they seem, and I think it goes, with our cultural mistrust of, big business today with government. There's all sorts of issues out there. And one of the things that happens with live internet radio is that you get to hear the person. You get to hear their voice, their tonality. It's not slick and polished like a video, but you get a lot of information transferred back and forth in a very natural way, which is just sitting and listening. Mm-hmm. And it can really establish somebody as a professional in ways that other venues don't. Internet radio is unique in that you get to talk. You get to really hear this person in a conversation, usually with another person, almost like you're eavesdropping. And that's a really great way to show yourself to your customers how much knowledge you do have, how much you do know about your industry, your thoughts, things like that, because it's a little bit voyeuristic with internet radio in that people are listening to you have a conversation with somebody else. Like right now, anybody listening to us is hearing me talk with Dave Anderson of Leadership Solutions, Scott Frazier of Toginet Radio, and they get to promote themselves in answering questions to me in a way that would be almost insulting or obnoxious if you put it in the face of your customer. And so I'm going to go over to Dave Anderson right now because, Dave, you have an internet radio show and you are a really, really knowledgeable guy. I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listeners today and talk a little bit about how internet radio has helped establish you as a professional.
Well, thanks, Sandra. I appreciate being on the show with both of you. And, I've been running my own leadership development business now for a little over 3 years since leaving a corporate job that I held for 20 years in the military. And then I was in the military prior to that. And when I started my my own business, this leadership development business, I started blogging, and kind of go with what Scott just said. I mean, I've been blogging for 2.5 years before I started my internet radio show, and it is a whole nother level of expressing yourself to your audience. The written word is fantastic. I mean, it's been around forever, but if you really want to get across your passion and your idea and get your ideas across to people, studies have shown. Albert Moravian did a study where he looked at effective communication of emotions, and he said only 7% of that is actually the words that you use. Only 7% is actually the words that you use, and the other and the rest is your tone of voice and your body language and things. So if I was only using a blog, I miss 93% of what gets across those emotional ties where people make decisions and where people say, "Hey, I want to hear more about that guy. I want to know more about what he does." And so the internet radio show has really kind of bridged that gap, because as you can tell, I get passionate about stuff, and my voice goes up and down, and hopefully that transfers to the audience when they're listening to me.
Well, Dave, yes, and I agree with being able to express that passion. I'm a very passionate person also, and a blog, a letter, unless we're using all caps, bold, underline, there's not a strong way of expressing that. And Sandra, to tie back into what you said earlier about how the voice projects a lot of emotion, and yes, people have not believed advertising, marketing for decades, and it's because our society as a whole, we're not listening today. We're not reading as much. We're sure not writing as much. So the opportunity to have a voice that we can express our emotions, express our passion, is a great way of being able to project that. And that's how, and you're right, we all, because of social media, because of Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, we are, as a society, more voyeuristic, if you want to call it that, but we like to find out new things. So Internet Talk Radio, having a podcast and having a file that we can project to the world through the new technology, we're able to reach millions and millions of people out there.
Well, and I think it goes like, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins' marketing, when he used to do those late night infomercials, if I had had the money at the time, I would have bought his stuff. I own his stuff now. And, whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, the fact of the matter, he was the king of infomercials. Or you look at, that ShamWow guy and who was the guy that sliced and diced him? He was on the Ronco guy. But those were the predecessors for what we're doing today in business with internet radio, because your internet radio show really becomes infomercials where you can weave in not only your own product and services to create a revenue stream, but you can bring on people with products and services that you endorse and support. And create infomercials out of it, because you are talk radio. And when you talk about a product and you talk about where to get it, how to use it, your own personal experience, which is what I think is really valuable. I don't usually let anybody on my show unless I have their book in my hand, that I've read it and looked at it, that I've held their product in my hand so I can talk about it, because it is a conversation between two people, but it's an excellent way to deliver your ideas, your belief systems, the benefits of the products. And, I think that's really important today, to have these roundtable discussions about the products you're offering. Dave, when you think about leadership, because we really want to talk about like authors, coaches, speakers, people who are in our industry today. What do you think about that? Like having roundtable discussions about your own products or products that you bring on?
Well, what's interesting now, as I've gotten more and more into this, is the fact that it's interesting that the names that I'm starting to make contact with, names that that many people might have heard of in the industry of leadership development and things, like Dan Miller and Joey Fawcett. And when I bring up the number of downloads I'm getting and the audience size that they're seeing, they're ready to get on, and they say, and they ask, can we talk about my product? Can we talk about what we do, whether it be a coaching system or a book or whatever? They are out there to promote themselves, and what I've found is it also gives me an opportunity to promote. I have the website overwhelmmanagersguide.com, which is set up for overwhelmed managers to get real downloadable, doable solutions for them when they're just feeling overwhelmed. How do I lead in the midst of the craziness? Go to my site. Well, I get to bring that up in every radio show alongside with these gurus, and then after the show's over, they're saying, "Hey, Dave, would you like to be on my podcast? Do you want to set up an affiliate relationship here with his products and my products?" And it's this symbiotic relationship that starts to grow. And I'm having a ball, and I'm starting to, I'd say theoretically, rub elbows with some people that I look at as have been mentors of mine from afar.
Well, isn't that the funniest thing? Like when your radio show gets a certain number of downloads, like one of my shows gets 2 million downloads a month, which is really exciting. And, I get to call up people that I want to meet. I get to call up people that I want to talk to. And it's really so easy, you guys, with social media. When you have a presence like I have or Dave has that, Scott's company provides, you can actually go on LinkedIn, find another CEO, find a head of a company or, head of product marketing and development and say, "Hey, I'm Sandra Beck. Hey, I'm Dave Anderson. I've got a show with a couple million downloads a month. I really want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z on the air." And guess what? They call you back. They email you right back. It's like the magic door opener. And, for me, I own a technology company, and so I am always fishing for new clients. And what better way to get new clients than to bring them on your radio show, talk about their business, and then watch them see the results. It's a rare day that a potential client that I bring on my show doesn't turn around and sign up for some sort of services with my company. It's huge.
Well,
where else can you make connections like that? Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Sandra, I hear that week in and week out. Having a radio show where they can express their opinions, they're passionate about their products, but the stickiness that stands out is their ability, our host's ability, to have doors opened up that they would never have opened up. And it's one thing to say, yes, I have a radio show, an internet radio show, but listen, I'm reaching 500,000 people. I'm reaching 1 million people, 50,000 people. Most small terrestrial radio companies out there may be reaching 10, 15, 20,000, but to be able to build that audience and build that connection to people week in and week out is a door opener and a fabulous way of building your business. It's a great opportunity out there.
Though I am going to caution you, listeners today, if you're thinking about this, it's a huge, powerful tool for your business. You're not going to be sorry that you did it. But I'm going to say not any joker can just take a microphone, pick it up, and start recording, because there's some issues at play here. And, I'm excited that Dave can, talk a little bit about his process when he was setting up his show. But I want to give the audience some things to think about. Number one, anybody can record a podcast. You can go to Staples, $19.95, and buy yourself an MP3 recorder, or you can take your iPhone and record it. There you go. Now you've got a file. Big deal. But what does that demonstrate to your population, your target market? Does it make you sound like a professional? Do you have music? Do you have commercials? Do you have, what we call in the business intros and outros? Do you have lead-ins? Things that help establish you as a professional without you even doing anything but showing up. Do you have somebody to professionally produce your show? Do you have a producer that you have call your guests to get them on your show? Or are you, the person like on, some of these other networks, and I get interviewed all the time on them, and they sell me a great deal about, oh yeah, come on my show. It's this, and this. And then I get on and they're like, okay, hold on. I'll patch you in. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so amateurish. And it doesn't present that person at all as a professional or a leader in their industry. So having a company behind you that has somebody in staff, and I'm going to ask you, Scott, what are some of the things that you do that set you apart from the person picking up their iPhone and go, look, I have a podcast?
Well, great question. And starts with the fact that we have everything in-house. We have producers here that will be devoted to a host that the host can get to know. And through that connection, they can know that they're going to be covered from the minute the program starts all the way through the hour. They've got someone there backing up the electronics. They don't have to worry about anything. Most of the hosts will do interviews with folks. And so we have a staff here. So our producers / engineers, they will make contact with the host before the program, their interview, and everything is set, ready to record. And when there's a countdown, the program begins. The host knows they have someone backing them up that's taking care of all the electronics. They don't have to worry about a thing. All they have to worry about is the questions and the interaction they have with their guests. And we do the recording. We provide the editing capability. Things happen. This is live radio. And in the old days when they had live TV and the refrigerator wouldn't open, they had to be inventive in how they were going to take care of live TV. Well, the same thing happens here. Someone takes a sip of water, they come back on the air and they're choking. We'll go back in and edit those down and create a show that's professional, that's handled properly. The host comes across professional. We make the contact. There's no interruptions in the interview. We take care of all that in-house. And we do the voiceovers, like you were saying. Those tracks are created in-house, and we make all those services available to you. We record the live show. We turn that into an MP3. We host that on our servers. And then we make that show available for the host to be able to push through their own social media, tag on their own websites, and then we have a new system that we've put together that will actually push that show to reach more people around the world.
Well, and you make it available on iTunes. Like all you have to do with you is record your show and it shows up on iTunes.
That's right.
I mean, it's really turnkey, and it shows up with images, and things. It's fully executed professionally.
That's right. We tag the shows. The host can tag the shows with certain keywords that people are looking for, and then again, social media is available to push the shows around the world. Great packages.
Yeah, they are great packages. But before you jump out, I'm sure everybody listening today is going, ooh, what does this cost? Can you give us some ranges? In prices for packages, just ballpark, low to high.
Sure, we've got several packages that we're offering right now. There are folks that want to take a step in this direction, but they want a shorter time frame. Let's say instead of the hour program, and half-hour program. So we have ranges starting out at anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a year. To the full-blown package of the hour program, 1 hour per week, 52 weeks out of the year, where they'll start anywhere from $6,000 to go to $7,000, because one of the things that we've added this past year is a program that will push the MP3 files globally. And for instance, when we started ramping up this program, and it's using Twitter in a system that will launch send a message out to reach people. We had an average podcast download each month of about 230,000 podcast downloads. As of January, we completed our testing. We fully integrated that program into our support system. We hit 10.5 million podcast download. So going from 230,000 to 10.5 is a huge jump. And what that means to our host, Dave included, is the ability to reach more people around the world. Twitter reaches a phenomenal amount of people, and through Twitter and through Facebook, LinkedIn, we can actually project that voice around the world. So that's
and people will say,
range.
"Oh, go ahead, Dave."
No, that's Scott. But
Oh, Scott,
basically,
sorry.
there's a range there that we'll work with people depending on what format and some of the benefits that they're looking for.
So when you push people around the world like this, there's a lot of people listening today that are going to go, yeah, well, I'm in Texas, I'm in Arizona, my business is finite. What does that really do for me? And I'm going to answer that. And then I'm going to go over to Dave. I'm going to answer it just in that you can turn around and put in your marketing that you have 1 million listeners every month, that you might be a dentist in New York City, but you've got 1 million downloads on your episode on, whether you should use crowns or, whatever. It's amazing how much credibility that gives you. Dave, I'm going to go over to you and ask you, when you look at your downloads and you do a show and you see 25, 30,000 people have actually taken the time to download your show, and even better, there are people who have heard your show, gone into iTunes to find more. What is that? Because I think you're over 100,000 downloads right now just in 3 shows alone. Yeah. What does that do for you as a person and your personal confidence, and how your ability to market yourself has improved?
Yeah, it's been a huge thing for a couple different reasons. First of all, when you're the first time you get in front of the microphone, you're wondering if anybody's listening. I mean, am I shouting into the wind here? And then when you start seeing those numbers come up, you realize, oh my goodness, I'm having impact. I mean, my show is called Impact Talk Radio because really my whole thought process in life is if I'm not having impact on others, what am I doing here on this earth? So, I mean, that's why I call it Impact Talk Radio. So I'm actually seeing impact here. And then I started thinking about, you mentioned my shows, the first 3 shows, 100,000 downloads. Like I said, I have some online products that I have out there to help leaders, develop themselves and develop other leaders. And I just think, okay, well, if I have 3 shows that right now are doing 100,000, have done 100,000 downloads. By the way, they're growing at about 10,000 a week easily. Each one of those, even the historical shows, are growing at that rate. You just say, give me 1% of those actually converting into business. 1%. I mean, that gets kind of mind blowing. If you get to that, if you think about what's a 1% conversion rate, and depending on what you're offering, that sets you up to then. I think you're nailed it, Sandra. Whether it's you're marketing yourself internationally or you're marketing yourself in your backyard. For me to be able to tell the people, I'm one of those people in Texas. I'm not in Dallas. I'm not in Houston. I've chosen to raise my family in a town of 100,000 people. But to walk around and talk to the businesses locally and say, hey, by the way, I'm getting 100,000 people on a regular basis downloading the message I'm sending. That just says to them, well, maybe we should listen to this guy. And it's so much fun. I'm having a ball. And you're right, though. You don't want to just do it on your own, because all the help and everything that's been given to me through using Toginet has made this something that, in the beginning, I'm a fairly confident guy, and I'm working on trying to get a little bit more humble. But at some point I was almost in a panic before that first show.
Well, Dave, I've heard that time and time again from a lot of hosts that, will speak to groups of, 500, 1,000, 5,000, and they're professional, they're polished, and they will get ready for that first show, and they have stage fright. That the clock clicks down, that there's like a 10-second counter, and they freeze up, and they have to redo their first show because they imagine they've got millions of people listening to them, which they may, but it's a big surprise at that first show, isn't it? Yeah.
Well,
boy.
Yeah, that microphone in front of you, or if it's dangling from your ear or whatever, when you're sitting there by yourself and you don't necessarily see the reaction of the crowd, because if there's people out there listening right now, I get up on stage and I speak all the time, and I love doing that. But without that reaction, you need to you work differently, and you have to emote differently. But I had coaching that came through Toginet. I had coaching that helped me understand the difference and helped me prepare. And on the day, 24 hours before I was to go on, I'm calling my producer, in a cold sweat. And, it was a great situation. Eric just kind of walked me through some stuff and said, it's a lot easier than you're making it out to be. Well, because I was in a cold sweat about the technical stuff.
Right.
And he just walked me through it, and I'm like, now I don't even think about the technical stuff. I'm concerned about my content, and I'm concerned about helping my guests look good on the show, and also concerned about making sure that people hear about my products. But if you're concerned about the technical stuff that you're out there, if you're out there listening right now, if you know me, I'm not a techno geek. I don't have that gene, but it's all taken care of. It really is.
Well, Dave, and that's one of the aspects of what we provide for our hosts that we're very proud of. We've worked very hard at creating a team, producers, engineers, equipment, hundreds of thousands of dollars of support where we can provide the professional kind of service that people are looking for. Now, there's other services out there that Sandra alluded to, but for a professional that wants to communicate to an audience that they will project confidence and a know-how to concentrate on the conversation and not worry about whether or not I'm projecting the right sound and if the switches are working properly. We want to be able to support you with an hour program where you can do your best job.
Yeah.
Well, and when you only have the same 24 hours as everybody else, you've got to really take a hard look at your business and go, okay, what kind of media am I putting in social media? Because I think everybody understands the social aspect of it. Yeah, you gotta be social, you gotta meet people, you gotta network, but they forget about the media part, and then they slap some photograph or somebody else's video up. When you execute properly a radio show like Dave is doing through Toginet, you immediately build into your business a rock solid, systematic, positive to your business form of social media. Because when you promote your radio broadcast each week or every other week, whatever you decide to do, you have not only something to announce, you get to talk to people about what you're doing. You get to share your thoughts, and then you get to implement it in social media. And social media can really easily eat up your bottom line. It can just gobble it right up, no trouble. But if you are investing in yourself and you sit down and think about, okay, what kind of money am I willing to invest in myself and my business that's going to give me like triple bang for the buck. Something like this gives you huge bang for the buck because it supports your overall business. It establishes you as a professional. It generates business leads. It can create a revenue stream. It allows you to sell your product and services, but it also handles that issue that a lot of entrepreneurs have, a lot of authors have, a lot of speakers have, and coaches, in that how do they feed the social media beast on a regular basis with new, unique, powerful content? Well, ta-da, here's your answer.
Yeah. And I agree. And, it's an interesting thing. I've always thought about this, even in my corporate, when I was working corporately. You always think, you need to do 2 or 3 things extremely well. You can't do everything mediocre in a mediocre level. You need to do 2 or 3 things extremely well. And what are those things going to be? And when you have a turnkey situation like this, I'm the person you just described there, Sandra. I'm the one who's trying to reach out, but I also have those live talks I'm doing. I also have those people going through my coaching programs that I have to commit time to. I also have I also have curriculum and things that I'm writing and books and all that type of thing. How do I take care of this social media type thing? Well, I do this radio show, and one of the things I know you were going to ask me about, how did I a couple of things that I would say to somebody in my situation here starting out. Thinking about integrating this system, these podcasts, into the other things that you're doing. And if you go to my webpage, if you go to Anderson Leadership Solutions webpage, you're going to see you're going to see my Impact Talk Radio logo there. Well, guess what? The colors are the same. That I was able to get help with designing my Impact Talk Radio logo, and so the colors match the colors of my Anderson Leadership Solutions logo. Well, then I also have that other website that's the overwhelmmanagersguide.com, where people go and download the videos and PDFs and solutions like that. Well, guess what colors they are? The same. And then what I've done is I've hooked all three of those sites in together so they all promote each other. And it's been something where I've just been able to use the people at Toginet, where I've been able to say, hey, do you think I could do something like this? And you know what? I haven't gotten a no yet. They're like, yeah, this is something we could try to do. This is something we could do. So
well, that's great to hear, Dave. Boy, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe I'm not thinking that far out of the box yet, but I tend to get some pretty wacky ideas, but what it's done is, okay, now I'm really focused on this idea that I'm touching so many hundreds of thousands of people potentially with my voice. How do I integrate that into the other things that I'm doing? And that's thought process is continuing to evolve. And I would just say to you that anybody out there listening, one of the things Sandra has impressed upon me is, that first show that I did is still being downloaded today, and it's going to be downloaded a year from now, and it could be downloaded 3 years from now. And that your message is continuing to go out, and that's a good thing. That's not something to say, oh no, that first show, because I look back at my first show and I'm like, I could have done that better. Well, I get better. Hopefully I'm going to continue to get better, but it is the impact, the fact that it is a durable marketing message, I guess is what I'm thinking here for your products and for your services. It's a durable marketing message that stays out there for as long as you want it to be out there, really.
So, Dave, do you just pick up a microphone and, talk about what goes on the top of your head, or do you have a systematic, executable, content plan that drives your business and supported by internet radio?
Yeah, I do have a plan. I have kind of a template that I use saying, this is how the sections of my show I want them to go. Like I said, I blogged for 2.5 years before I even got into this. And so I've put a lot of information out there, and I've structured my thought process, and that's one of the things writing has helped me do is structure my thought process. But now I've taken a lot of things that I've written in the past, and I use those as the outline for the topic of the day, the topic of the show. And I use that as an outline, and then I usually, when I talk to an author or somebody who's coming onto my show in the prep time beforehand, I usually contact them, make sure that they have the opportunity to send me some questions that they want me to ask them, because I'm there to help them promote what they do. But also I send them some questions along the lines of those topics. And when we get into the conversation, it really becomes a conversation. But I mean, I take those. I have a script especially for that opening. I'll put together those first few paragraphs there where I've really thought through how am I going to set up the rest of the show. After that, the show kind of starts to take care of, and I guess I also spend time making sure my closing is sharp. My closing is tight as well. I'll write out some paragraphs there to make sure. I want to make sure I summarize some things at the end, that the message I want to get across. And I guess, so the opening, the ending summary, and also having some of those segues where you want to make sure that you're smooth and talking about, hey, this is Dave Anderson, and you're listening to Impact Talk Radio, where every day you're going to get a dose of reality, a dose of advice, a dose of impact solutions, and a dose of hope. I mean, that trips off my tongue right now, but that first show, I had it taped on the wall right in front of me, and to make sure I didn't screw that up. And so some of those things I did to prepare as far as content-wise goes.
Now, who owns this stuff, Scott? Like, can people, you record it, you produce it, you do all this stuff at Toginet Radio. The host comes on, it's their content. Does the host own his own show? And what are some things that they can do with these sound files when, they're done putting them through their social media and, attracting downloads so that they can promote their success in the workforce? Can they recut them into best of? Can they resell this stuff? Can they burn them to CDs and take them to their speaking engagements and up their speaking money take for the weekend?
All the above, Sandra. Yes, the program that we produce for them is their program. They get 52 minutes. That starts at 1 minute after the hour. There are 3 commercial breaks, 2 1-minute commercial in each break, and those 3 commercials. 3 of the 6 commercials are owned by the host, so they can promote a book, a seminar. Maybe as they interview somebody that has a company, they could sell that 1-minute space to the company, but the host owns their material. They can use that material anyway. Yes, they can cut that down, the best of a given subject, whether it's a point like Dave was talking about, leadership and how do you deal with a difficulty. They can put 3 or 4 of those shows together, offer that at a seminar or a conference where they're selling a CD of the best of 10 shows or 5 shows. So there's those shows are on our servers. We make those available to the host if they're through their social media, or if they want to write a blog and they want to talk about something, they can put a hot link in there that'll direct someone right to their show page or right to their podcast page to promote or clarify a subject that they want to talk about. It's their program. They own it. So as long as they have a show, we will have that material on our servers. Now, if the first question when I came on board is how long, what's the life of a show host? And I'm thinking, how much can someone generate information out there? A year, 2, 3 years? Well, we've had people that have had shows 5 years, 8 years. There's always something new that people have the opportunity to communicate. What is significant in business today is going to be different from 6 months ago or a year from now. So those shows are on our servers. If someone wants to take a break, we have some flexibility to give them a sabbatical, let's say. They're going to go do a study. They're taking some time off. We have some programs that will allow their shows to be available to people, but they can take a break. So we have got a lot of flexibility there.
Well, and I'm going to say that's really important, Scott. I'm one of the people that's been, in your network for 5 years. I've done hundreds and hundreds of shows. And as a single mom with 2 kids and a technology company owner, I'm pretty strapped for time. So, for me to sit down and plan this stuff ahead of time, be able to pre-record as needed, or, like in the summer where I run into some childcare issues, which almost everybody who's an entrepreneur with kids or a work at home person with kids run into, to be able to record these things ahead of time and deploy them out strategically is huge. And I've gotten it down, and I want to talk to Dave a little bit about this. I will sit down at the beginning of a month and I will plan out, I usually do anywhere between 10 and about 10 shows a month. So I plan out my 10 shows. I have a systematic format that I use them. I contact the host or the guests. I contact my co-host. It runs like clockwork. And when I have my guests send in their information ahead of time and their questions and things that will facilitate my ability to do the show, we're talking an hour for me to record. And maybe I spend 2 hours a week on all 10 shows for the month. So you can get this, for those of you in here going, I don't have the time, I can't do this. You can get it so it's streamlined, it's fast, it's effective. And these sound files have multiple uses. We can execute them like we talked about, not only in social media. We can also cut and resell this content at different places. We can give it away as white pages. We can use it to get people to sign on to our organization, our company, come listen to us speak, because we are in front of millions of people. And, there's no better level playing field today, guys, than the internet. 20 years ago when I got out of Northwestern and I was trying to get a job, and there was no LinkedIn, and there was no, ability to do these pre-records, or even record or be on a radio show without, dipping into, credit card debt, trust fund, or, selling my dogs on the street. There just wasn't that ability today. Now with technology, with these companies like Toginet, it's turnkey, as Dave Anderson of Anderson Leadership Solutions talked about today. You just know your content because you do it every day. You need a little help. They have programs available. They've got coaches available to walk you through this. Dave, how long would you say it took you to prepare for going on the air?
Well, what I would say about that, Sandra, is I've cut it in half now. I mean, most of my preparation was because of ignorance, of not understanding the system. And as I've gotten better at understanding the system, the time it's taken me has at least been cut in half. And I'm nowhere near the experience you have so far. So I'm hoping that's going to continue to go that way. And so literally, I think probably for a show now, I'm probably, for an hour-long show, I am probably spending 30 minutes preparing the content for it, but I expect that to get less and less as I continue to get better and understand my own voice, my own message, and how do I continue to use this medium that I'm new to compared to you, but how am I going to continue to use this and grow on that? So I expected, just like anything else in the beginning, everything's hard before it gets easy. And for me, what's happened is the learning curve has flattened out tremendously in a much shorter period of time than I expected.
Well, Dave, and most of us as professionals, we want, and coming from the branding world, like Sandra, we want to put on the best front that we can. And when we're talking about our voice, yes, we want to practice that. We want to practice what our intros, what our exits are, the content. But it takes time. But once you get over the initial shock of sitting in front of a microphone, standing in front of a microphone, and you can't look at your audience as they teach you in public speaking and visualize the audience without clothes on, really?
Right.
Well, there's nobody in front of me, so I'm standing in front of a microphone and I'm preparing.
Without any clothes on, because you can do that.
We weren't going to talk about details, were we? But you're right. We can sit in our own home, and that's part of this strategy that we put together. Through Skype, we reach out to people wherever they're located. We have had hosts that get caught in LA traffic, and they use their cell phone, and we'll connect through a cell phone. Skype is wonderful in the ability to reach anywhere in the world. We signed up a team that one host is in Australia, the other host is in Amsterdam, and we had to figure out the best time to record the program because at 7:30 our time, it is 3 o'clock in Amsterdam and 10:30 in Australia. But we have the ability through Skype to connect those two hosts, and they've got an incredible program. So people can be, and that's part of our goal as a company, where we want to reach the globe. There are 6.5 billion people in the world. 3.2 billion are connected through the internet or some form of smartphone, tablet, electronics. There are 3 billion people, and I can't comprehend that are available for us to make an impact on. Dave, there's a lot of people out there that still haven't heard your voice, and we're going to do what we can to continue to promote you and take care of all the details so you can continue to do what you're great at.
And I trust in that fact. I mean, that's the thing, because the results have been early. I've had early results as far as downloads go. And some of you might be saying, oh, out there who are listening right now, yeah, but how long? How long is it going to take? Well, look, the first show I did in the first month had we were up to 40,000 downloads.
Well, and let me jump in there and thank you, Dave, for bringing that up, because in the past where we didn't have a social media, what I call push system, people did. When a host started their program, they didn't have we didn't have a system for them to reach out and tell people about it. They would have 30 people listen to their program, download the podcast, because that was as many friends and relatives as they had. And it would take them 6 months to build a following. And through our Twitter push system, we can reach people ahead of time and push the information to where when they start, like you, and you're the exception, and granted, you had a great training and you had a lot of strength going into it. Your first week, 10,000 downloads. I mean, you came out of the started the show with a big bang, and we normally don't see that. So that's a real special strength that you have.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, what I just want to say to anybody out there listening too, use the team that's available to you. And and if you're we think we're supposed to be the expert because we're the experts in one thing, we should be an expert in this thing. And you don't have to be. That's the point. I mean, I am busy enough with my own business. This is part of my business. It is not my business. And because of the access I have to experts who can, lessen the learning curve for me, I think that's one of the reasons I've had some early impact that have surpassed my expectations. And I think it's going to continue to grow with that just because of the, just what you said, the growth as far as moving from 230,000 downloads to 10.5 million in the last 9-10 months. That's an amazing number. And tell you what, that paddled my canoe when I heard those numbers here when you said that earlier, because I'm thinking, okay, some of those are my numbers, and that means if that type of growth with the potential of the 3 billion people out there. Okay, give me 1%. I'll take it.
We'll take 1% and we'll keep going. Sandra,
That's right.
Are you back on the air? I think we lost you for a few minutes. Are you back there now?
We did. I'm just going to send a thank you out to Edwards Air Force Base, who keeps buzzing my house today. They're doing some jet maneuvers. They shook my house once or twice. They just shook it the last time enough to knock my power down. So, well, it's not another. It's not intentional.
Another California earthquake, huh?
Nope. It was just some jets going over. They did some maneuvers, but I wanted to weigh in on this thing about closing deals off internet radio. I've been doing this a long time, guys, and listeners. There's a couple things at play here that you guys really need to understand. Everybody thinks that you put a radio show up and magically the sales roll in. But there's a couple steps that have to happen here when you're closing a deal on the internet. A, is your product priced right? A lot of people overprice their products, so the consumer, doesn't want to pay for that price point. Number 2, is your site engaging? If you're using internet radio to drive people to a website, A, do you have a website? B, is it engaging? Does it adequately identify what you're selling, what you're doing? A lot of times these things are dropped. The ball is dropped. I've worked on books that have been sent to me by major international publishing houses. The book topic was great, but the title was not engaging. The title was wrong. You look at Pretty Woman, it was originally Sunset 9000 versus Pretty Woman. There's a lot of key different components in here. And one of the things that Scott's company Toginet offers is some sort of business coaching to help you name things right, to help you make sure your price points are on target. They can help you create a website or fix your website from a standpoint of increasing sales. Now, in my experience, I've seen 40% increases in product sales. I've seen 30% increase in cookbook sales. These are numbers verified by national publishing houses and people who are manufacturers. We can back those up, but you've got to have all these keys in place. Radio is not the magic, sales button that you pick up the microphone and all of a sudden the cash register starts to ring. There's some fundamental things that have to be attended to first. So I just want to be realistic with people. We're going to wrap this up, guys. I'm going to go to each of you for your closing comments. What else you want to share today? Dave, I'm going to go with you first. This is Dave Anderson of Anderson Leadership Solutions. You can find him by Googling Dave Anderson Leadership Solutions, alslead.com.
Yeah, Sandra, thank you. Thank you for always bringing up the name of my company and things. And I would say what I've learned through doing Impact Talk Radio is the fact that you might not feel like you have a lot to say, but the more you do it, the more you realize you do. And you know what? Even if you're not feeling it on that day, you have a guest that does, and you do your best for your guest. You do your best for your guest, and I truly believe, just like what Zig Ziglar said, if you go out there and you think about serving others, it's going to come back to you. You do as much as you can to help others, the help will come to you as well. And I just think when you bring somebody else on your show, make sure it's about them.
Great. Scott, closing, you got any closing comments for us?
Well, I can't get better than what Dave just talked about. Dave, thanks for choosing Toginet Radio to host your live 1 hour program each week, and it's a great opportunity to be able to project your voice and your message around the world to those people that want to listen. Yeah, I think the main thing, anybody that's interested, I'm going to give my phone number and email address. The phone number here in Tyler, Texas, East Texas, is 903-787-5880. 903-787-5880. And you can find our website at toginet.com. My email is Scott, S-C-O-T-T, at toginetradio.com. That's a weird name, Toginet. It's spelled T-O-G-I-N-E-T, radio.com. Dave, thanks. Sandra, thank you so much for hosting this first hour with Coach Talk Radio. And Dave, give your phone number and email address and where how somebody can reach you.
Yeah, the best way to reach me via email is dave@alslead.com. That's dave@alslead.com. You can also reach me. My phone number is 903-262-6843. 903-262-6843. And again, if you want to check out some of the products and how I'm going about doing that product website, you can check out overwhelmmanagersguide.com. That's overwhelmmanagersguide.com.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. I'm going to say this once. Don't contact me. Don't email me. You can follow me on social media, but I got enough work to do. That's what internet radio has done for me. It has filled up my company. It has filled up my days. I'm able to support myself and my kids in a style that is wonderful. I hope that you guys listening today will learn from Dave. You'll pick up the phone. You'll call Scott at Toginet Radio. You'll experience the same success that I have years into the business. I am so amazed at the astounding results that Dave has got. So if you're a coach, if you're a speaker, if you're an author, or you're an entrepreneur, you owe it to yourself to pick up the phone and talk to either of these two guys and find out how you can make it work for you. It doesn't cost as much as you think. It doesn't take as much time as you think. And the benefits are outstanding. And I'm going to leave you with this question. I don't need any more business. If you need more business, I need you to think about, can you you not afford to take care of your business using internet radio? Can you afford not to? So you really need to look at the time, the money, and that's important. But at the end of the day, it's most important to find a way that's going to multitask in your business, make you money, free up your time, and let you live the life you want. This is Sandra Beck from Coach Talk Radio. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening. On behalf of Sandra Beck and Scott Frazier, we want you to get out there today to make more money with less time and effort so you can live the life you want. Tune in next week for more tips, tricks, and techniques from Coach Talk Radio.